Bitcoin has continued to break down here, yet the altcoins are somehow holding their ground a bit, with a few even flashing green while Bitcoin originally was bleeding out down to about 89,000 overnight. And the big question today is, are we watching the real capital rotation out of Bitcoin here and into the altcoin market, or is this just a temporary strength before everything rolls over together? Before we dive in, folks, do me a favor, stop what you're doing right now and drop me a one-word comment down in the comments area down below. Drop the word drop, D-R-O-P, if you think that the entire market heads lower from here, or the word swap, S-W-A-P, if you see capital flowing out of Bitcoin and into the altcoins here. I'm going to be going over the key outlooks and levels that I'm watching as this unfolds. My name is Paul Sampson. Welcome back to Data Dash. All right, folks, so as many are probably well aware, last night we dropped down below $90,000 on Bitcoin, which overall has been an over almost $40,000 drop, whereas you would anticipate the altcoins to just completely melt to the downside when we just saw a 18% drop just weeks ago in Bitcoin when we topped out at 126,000, and we dropped down to about 102,000 really quickly on that wick on October 10th. And during that wick on Bitcoin, only an 18% drop, we saw altcoins literally, some of them wicked down to zero, all right, on an 18% drop here. So ever since then, we've now come down over 26, almost 30% now in Bitcoin. But the altcoins have recently been holding their ground relatively well, especially on the most recent drop as of yesterday. Now here in CoinMarketCap, we're actually pushing up to about 93,000 at the time of recording. But you can see here, Ethereum still holding well around $3,000, has dipped down below a little bit. XRP over $2. Solana seeing a nice increase here. And while on CoinMarketCap here currently, we're seeing the small green percentages here, 24 hours a little bit here, and the 7-day is really what I want to point out here on this page is that we are seeing a minus 11% drop, give or take. Obviously, it was a little lower just a moment ago on Bitcoin. And if you look across the board, altcoins are relatively the same, if not a little less even. And so you could almost argue that the altcoins are outperforming this drop at least, right? Where we're not seeing as crazy of a drop in the alts like we tend to see. Usually if Bitcoin sneezes, the alts catch a cold, right? So if we drop 10% on Bitcoin, you can anticipate 20 or more out of the altcoins usually. But in this case, we're actually holding pretty well here. I actually just posted in the Data Dash Discord this morning that we had seen, and this is where I'm looking at the percentages a little differently. This is from trading view, so when looking at CoinMarketCap, the difference, this is the last 24 hours from literally 24 hours from right now, so it's not probably as aggregated as the CoinMarketCap is. But you can see here that Bitcoin is up a little here. It was actually down just a bit ago, but look at the alts. We're seeing Ethereum up almost 3%. Solana's going for a run up almost 8% here. Even Dogecoin up 5%, and then of course XRP up a few percent as well. The key point I'm pointing out here, folks, is that we're seeing a position now where Bitcoin is, yes, dropping. The market is pulling back with it a little bit, but the alts are not getting hammered like we're used to seeing. Again, is this just something that we see a short-term little bit of strength here and then everything does roll over eventually? It's what everybody's kind of used to at this point, but we're going to be taking a look at other things here, right? So the Bitcoin dominance, that ETH BTC chart, that's been my my Bible, I guess you could say, over the last few years, where it's what's led me to look to the altcoin seeing a sizable move here coming up. And the last one that we just did see, especially with Ethereum going from 1,400 to 4,900, over 250% rally. I also just posted a bunch of updates this morning, how we had some bullish divergence appearing behind the scenes in the order flow, that we had some potential trap traders as we saw people coming in, adding into shorts, basically at the low there around that $89,000, $90,000. Open interest was increasing on the red delta, and that this was all basically a tell that we had buyers stepping in and really absorbing that selling pressure. And a lot of times that leads to what's known as a short squeeze, so aka a hard and fast move up, which by no means is just any kind of reclaim on what we've seen as far as the drop goes, but this does at least give us a little bit of things to look for. As for today, Monday low was the key here, and we are seeing that rise now, right? So again, a lot of people are coming in shorting this really heavily into these two lows here. Usually gives us a recipe to get that push back up. So we're getting that hard and fast move up here now out of Bitcoin, and now the altcoins are really getting a run with it as well. And if you would like access to all these updates, which I put out daily, again, I put the members morning updates here in the daily dash section here. So cover the outlook for the day, a little bit more short term, but a little bit of context around pretty much everything that's going on around what we're dealing with. We have the long-term area, stock market TA, the academy that's included. So this is basically all of my educational resources, teaching you how to break down charts and everything I do each and every single day, all included again with your membership, as well as having access to the monthly dash report by Nicholas Merton. So if you're interested, join us over at data-pro.com. Otherwise, let's keep going here. So while it's not something to get overly excited about right now, again, we have seen a sizable drop out of Bitcoin recently, and as well as some of the alts too. Don't get me wrong, right? ETH is down 30+%, Solana as well. It's not like they're just holding up where they were by any means, and we're getting a little bit of a bounce right now. Not to get overly excited about it, okay? But to take a look at some of the things that we've been viewing for the last few really weeks and months here, the dominance chart has been a big one for me. We've been in a huge range. All right, we had a little deviation here, and we broke back into said range, back tested the high. So just much like when you're looking at any type of setup in technical analysis, many will look for that breakout, retest, right? And whether you're looking for a breakout to the upside or the downside, you come in, you back test the previous support or resistance, okay? And in this case, we're looking to back test our range high here, and then as long as we are now below that, we should, in theory, head down towards the midpoint of the range here. Our gold pocket area will naturally tend to seek out our point of control, which is the highest area of volume that's traded within that region. And when Bitcoin dominance heads lower, we tend to see the altcoins perform better, right? That means that again, capital is coming out, it's flowing out of Bitcoin, and generally either goes into, I guess it could go into stable coins, but usually it goes into the altcoins, right? So usually that leads us into a place where the altcoins outperform. Doesn't necessarily mean they only go up from there. They could very well come down with Bitcoin. They might just come down a little less, just as we were looking at a moment ago, where Bitcoin has come down several percent this week, and some of the alts have come down a little bit less, right? So it's not often that happens, but that can happen in a downward piece of this. But usually this is actually when we see Bitcoin tend to range out a little bit, or even where we experience right now, where we're seeing Bitcoin come down in price, altcoins basically stall out to some degree with it. Then Bitcoin gets a bounce, and then the altcoins get a big bounce, right? So we've almost seen the opposite of that over the last few years, where it seems like Bitcoin has just gotten these major rallies. There's been a few winners across the altcoin market, of course, that have seen some substantial moves, but most have not. But in these potential outflows here, this is the time where that could occur, okay? And you're going to have the ebbs and flows, and the market's going to go up and down with it. And again, it's like where Bitcoin could fall down, like we just saw, to 88K, get a burst back to, let's just say, 90,000, 95, 98, and in that time the altcoins could see sizable moves up at the same period, because it's like, again, we're seeing the outflows potentially here. So dominance coming down is a good sign for that to kind of continue here as well. And then you've got the ETH versus BTC chart. Again, this is just something that I've been tracking for quite a long time, since pretty much 2023, heavily, at least for the idea of this overall big reversal setup, okay? Looking for this harmonic, which is a sequence of Fibonacci's. Once again, set of ratios, set of targets, list of rules. We had a perfect completion zone, perfect timing at that as well on a high time frame. And we already ran it up pretty much to one of our first target areas. We front ran it technically. So it would be really nice to actually come back and officially meet that before we get the next pullback, if we're going to get one. But overall, holding here pretty nicely. Again, when Bitcoin was coming down last night, we saw ETH BTC actually holding up. ETH was getting a little bit of a pullback as well, but it wasn't dropping like we've seen it recently. So overall, kind of still looking for this to head into this region again as we're heading into the coming months, and potentially in a big piece of next year. So something I'll be tracking pretty heavily. And I know that this is not the overall altcoin market by any means. This is just Ethereum, but usually when Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, it's not usually doing it alone, and a lot of times the altcoins come with it, right? So just something that I'm going to be paying attention for here also. And then one final piece that I've really got my eyes on, it's got my attention. It's not something I'm overly married to by any means, but it's just something that if we start to really reclaim some ground here on the others dominance. So this is now the crypto altcoin market, basically everything excluding the top 10. All right, so this is essentially like the rest of the market, okay? And now this does include, it's a basket of everything, right? It's the millions of Solana S coins and all that stuff. And then, but at the same time, it's got everything else that's just outside the top 10, which is a lot, right? This is like your avalanches and things of that nature. Sui, Ondo, all those, newer projects. We've come down again on that liquidation day on the 10th, put in a pretty sizable wick here. And for me, I'm always looking for a potential harmonic setup when you get these kind of moves here. And again, nothing that I can say is valid by any means at this point. But if we start to reclaim really this low, okay, which is the 2023 low, sitting at about 7.8%. Currently, we're holding at about 7.4. Last night, it pushed up to about 7.6 almost, so very close. If we start to live above that 2023 low, I think that a sizable move up, and it's not going to be quick. It'll probably be months at this point, right? This is, again, weekly time frame. This is dating back to like 2021 high here, 2023 low here. So not something I'm thinking we see immediately, but this is something that could really branch out over the coming months to potentially a year. And again, it's going to have to be things that we're going to have to, manage along the way. But that 7.8, nothing really materializes till we get above there anyways, but that 7.8% mark, put an alert on it if you can. I know I have one here. I'm going to be looking at this really, really nicely, because if we do flip that area and start to hold it on the weekly and the daily time frame specifically, one, we've got an untapped high time frame average likely to be met here back at like 9%, which would be a pretty nice little move there. And then we'd look to see if we flip that and go from there level by level, of course. But what I'd be looking for is a really sizable impulse that could come out of this, okay? All begins with reclaiming that 2023 low. And if we were to see a move like that, and again, over the course of months, the last time we did see that was back in January of 2021, towards the end of 2020. So basically the last bull run, right? The last 2021, just that bull run, the entire market cycle there. So not to get overly excited about it, not to piece that with a fractal of past performance or anything of that nature, but just something I'm really paying attention for here. It does line up a bit with my Bitcoin dominance outlook and the ETH BTC outlook. Timing aligns with basically the year of 2026. So definitely something that's got my attention. 7.8%. I'll be looking for it. Of course, I'll update along the way. Again, folks, if you're looking for any deeper insights during times like this, especially when the market is diverging a little bit, narrative starts shifting, be sure to check us out over at data-pro.com. Inside, you'll get the full access to our private Data Discord, where I post daily charts, setups, levels, real-time market updates. You also get access to Nicholas Merton's monthly Dash report, where he breaks down the macro environment, global liquidity trends, ETFs, equities, crypto positionings, and bigger forces shaping what's coming next. So it's the most comprehensive macro breakdown that I've ever seen. Thank you all as always for watching and supporting the channel. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already. Stay disciplined, stay focused. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.